President Biden slamming Vladimir Putin during that trip to Tokyo that he made. He says the Russian leader needs to pay a heavy price for what he calls barbarism in Ukraine.
I believe what Putin is attempting to do is eliminate the identity of Ukraine. The identity. He can't occupy it, but he can try to destroy its identity. He has to pay, and Russia has to pay a long-term price for that in terms of the sanctions that have been imposed.
The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky agrees, but he wants to punish Russia even further. Today, he addressed political and business leaders at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. He's now calling for maximum level of sanctions on Russian oil and banks. Meantime, a Russian diplomat at the United Nations in Geneva has quit his job in protest of Russia's invasion. Today, he issued an extraordinary statement. He wrote in part, "The aggressive war unleashed by Putin against Ukraine, and in fact against the entire Western world, is not only a crime against the Ukrainian people, but also perhaps the most serious crime against the people of Russia, with a bold letter Z crossing out all hopes and prospects for a prosperous, free society in our country." His statement comes as a court in Kyiv today sentenced a Russian soldier to life in prison. It's the first war crimes trial since Russia's invasion began. The 21-year-old Russian admitted he shot an unarmed man in the head in the early days of the war. He says he didn't want to kill him and that he was just following orders. Other Russian troops are doing just that in eastern Ukraine. That's where Zelensky estimates Russian forces are now killing up to 100 Ukrainian soldiers per day. Retired Air Force Lieutenant General Dave Deptula now. He served as Air Force Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Deputy Chief of Staff. Also planned successful air campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan. General, Ukrainians are now deploying American-made howitzers. A Ukrainian commander says this weapon brings them closer to victory. Do you agree?
Yes, Shep, I do. I also agree that we need to continue to step up our support of the Ukrainians because, as you see and as you very well described, the Russians are continuing with their scorched earth tactics. And as a result, along with the continued egregious Russian violations of the laws of armed conflict, I think what you're going to see is President Zelensky is going to seek complete restoration of Ukrainian territory and sovereignty. Therefore, there's no ceasefire deal on the horizon, and the West is going to continue to need to support Ukraine with weapons that matter.
General, the Russian diplomat who quit his job today and issued a really stern rebuke of Vladimir Putin, how big of an impact can something like that have on the world stage for Putin?
Well, I think what it does is it underlines the position that virtually all, not all, but a good number of Western nations hold. And it just validates, particularly coming from a Russian diplomat, of the seriousness of the nature of Putin's aggression. And coming from someone who is a former Russian diplomat, I think that lends a lot of credibility to someone internal to, or at least previously internal to Putin's government. Coming out in this regard just lends a lot of credence to what we all know.
General, a top German official, before we go, says he sees an EU oil embargo breakthrough within days. Could that turn the tide of Putin's war economically?
Well, I think, sanctions and limitations can certainly help in the long term, but they're not going to have an immediate impact in the battle space. I believe that we need to continue with these kinds of actions, but once again, they'll have an effect over the long term, not in the short term. In the short term, we need to provide President Zelensky and the Ukrainian military weapons that they can put to good use in eliminating the Russian occupation now.